Friday, live at 5. We haven't done one of these in quite some time, and I would have been here exactly at 5 o'clock if it wasn't for the usual computer jinx nonsense. Here I am, ready to start doing some kind of chat stream here, and all of a sudden, hey, there's a new NVIDIA driver. NVIDIA Game Ready driver is all ready to go. And then, NVIDIA had an update, Xbox Game Pass had an update. It's like, gee, corporate America, why don't you tell me all the more that you send stuff out to the users right as you're leaving the office for the weekend? Of course, I can't really say that, though, because we're talking companies that are headquartered in California here, so 4, 3, 2 in the afternoon. But if by chance any of these companies have an Eastern division, all right, that's going nowhere. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, a.k.a. MultimediaJay, taking a break from the retro overload that has defined my channel and given me a new mandate on where to go forward with the videos. It's actually really nice to see the something besides the same old computers over and over again, bringing in some views and also finding favor with the algorithm. The biggest takeaway, and of course the algorithm's gonna be a thing that I focus on, because it is something that's in play, as we saw with the PlayStation video. The PlayStation video went to Pluto until the algorithm shut it off. And it was the biggest, most blatant example, like we talked about last time, the biggest, most blatant example of the fact that YouTube's technology is part of the equation. YouTube's technology serves the middleman role as to whether or not you get any views. People can tell you otherwise all they want. But here's the thing. I mean, I can do exactly what a lot of the talking heads say that I should do. I can focus on building a community, like some kind of Twitch streamer or something like that. I can focus on the human side of this, but we know from people speaking up, and my own experience too, by the way, getting unsubscribed from a channel that I liked and wanted to watch. I just didn't have the time to keep up with it, with that stuff earlier, that the technology will get in the way even if you do everything else right. Even if you focus on your relationship with your audience and doing stuff that they want and making them happy and everything, the technology can still intervene and shut you down. So it's part of being realistic. There's probably 2 words with R that apply to the main discussion today when we're going to talk about this whole situation with YouTubers not respecting their audiences, and then big YouTubers who just plain flat out don't care about their audiences. They just gotten enough critical mass in the YouTube algorithm in order to not have to give a darn about it. So there's 2 words that are going to be in play here: respect and what we just talked about earlier. Forgot it already. There is so much to talk about with stuff that's been piling up this past week that I have a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm probably going to have a very hard time getting some of it. And then today I was actually waiting for, one thing at a time here. I was waiting for some more controllers to come in. There he goes, surrounding himself in game controllers again. This time, the Retrobit Sega controller, 6-button controller, goes to USB. Can be used to play Sega games on Steam. Feels very similar to a 6-button controller I've had for years, which is original Sega. So I'm getting this, and this is for, of course, all those Sega games, as well as that Sonic Generations or whatever it is, that Sonic bundle on Steam. Also, I also happen to have the Genesis collection on PS3, so put this to the PS3's USB controllers, set everything up, and play things that way. And now I get to choose, do I want to play it on HDMI or put it through the tube TV? So, a whole bunch of stuff going on. I also have a bunch of this Sega controller, 6-button with turbo and slow, is from an experiment I did in the 2000s. There was a piece of hardware being sold on Amazon at the time that was supposed to let you hook up a whole bunch of original controllers to a Wiimote for your virtual console games, to play with original controllers. The accessory I bought didn't work quite as well as I wanted it to. And then we have, of course, the Hyperkin. I think this is the Cadet, which is the NES controller, so I can finally have something besides the original Nintendo controller over at the retro setup, because this thing is decades old and the plastic is pretty stiff on it. Or maybe I'm just not used to it anymore. That's the problem that I run into with older controllers, is that you got to remember that plastic changes over time. That's the reason why plastic yellows. So you go back to an old controller and you're like, this is the real way to play retro games. You might not actually be getting the experience you had when you were a lot younger, because the plastic aged. So I can tell you, when plastic yellows, it becomes more brittle. And that's one of the reasons why retro brighting is a thing. It's not just about your console looking ugly. It's about it's more susceptible to breaking. So something like this that maybe is, close but no cigar, I don't know, might actually be good enough for older games. Plus, Hyperkin tries to improve upon the ergonomics by putting grips on the back and all kinds of other stuff. I cannot honestly say, though, NES with its square controllers back in the day when there wasn't very much even for controllers on consoles at the time, was this good to us because it's all we had and it's all we knew. We didn't know any better. And so nowadays it's just our nostalgia kicking in when we actually want to go back to stuff like this. Something to think about. All right, there's a whole bunch of stuff we have to talk about. Streamlabs Stream Hatchet Q2 2022 is out. We're going to talk about nostalgia and retro as well and where that's going and how it's pretty good with things for the channel and stuff like that. And then, wow, yes, watch where the mouse is. Main discussion today, we're going to talk about this manipulation meta on YouTube. I have an old Twitch clip that I brought over from a Twitch discussion stream that I did in 2020, and that's the extent of my discussion about this whole manipulation meta on YouTube. But I recently got into an argument with the new YouTube liaison, Renee Ritchie, about the use of thumbnails on YouTube, and I just want to fly the flag, as I've already done in a community post. Go check it out. I just want to fly the flag. I don't believe in manipulating people to chase numbers. I absolutely hate the corporate side of YouTube these days, and these YouTubers that'll come right out and brag about essentially disrespecting their audience. If you're a spam bot, whatever. But if you're an actual human being, you are a person who has chosen to take time out of your day to watch me, of all people. So, with my skunkworks, if you want to call it that, lockdown era webcam for the streams, and my palm cam camcorders, usually Sony Handycams using the built-in microphone for tech videos. I don't have a $1,000 DSLR, key lights going everywhere. In many ways, I represent what YouTube originally was before people started using it as a means to an end, which is why we have the things today that the iJustines and the Mr. Beasts of the world go around saying. But I fundamentally do not agree or support this idea that I should do everything I can to either manipulate you people, play psychological mind games with you people, or in some other way try and get people, blow off my audience to chase more people just to grow numbers on the channel. Fundamentally, you folks decide to watch or not watch, and the hard numbers on my channel reflect that. For all the talk about, for example, impressions click-through rate, the videos I have with the highest impression click-through rates are the ones with the least amount of work in the thumbnails. And no matter what I've done with thumbnails over the years, it has been that way for years, indicating something that should be really common sense to me. Content is more important than the screwball way in which it is presented. And let's also not forget two things about YouTube as well. Let me get this over here. Let's not forget two things about YouTube as well. YouTube is very aggressive when it comes to terminating channels for spam, scams, and deceptive content, which includes deceptive metadata, when YouTubers take everything too far. At the very same time, the other thing to remember is that YouTube also, if they don't outright ban you, like I see on Twitter all the time with, hey, I lost my channel, spam, scams, deceptive content. Can I get it back? No, you were correctly terminated for violating our policy on spam, scams, and commercially deceptive content. Read the policy here and da-da-da-da. If they don't outright ban you, what they're going to do is they're going to roll out technical features that shut you down if you try and play those games. A couple of years ago, neon thumbnails and clickbait titles were all the rage. You really weren't a real YouTuber unless you were you were doing all of that stuff. You needed that in order to get views until YouTube started eroding away at that. They rolled out first mouse over previews. Mouse over something on desktop, maybe there's something similar on mobile, and a couple seconds of the video play so you can very easily see when someone has a bright neon thumbnail, but it's just a dude in a room talking for the actual video. Then there's, of course, some people that got lucky with that randomly generated mouse over preview and went viral because of it. And then, unfortunately, they thought that was something they could replicate over and over again and then got upset about how their channel stalled out or whatever. when in reality they just got lucky with a mouse over preview that went viral. So you have that to consider as well. But yeah, it's just, you had the mouse over previews first. Nowadays, you have full on, it starts playing the video with captions turned on when you mouse over from your subscriptions page. Doesn't happen with like the recommended tab and stuff, but there are videos that you are, and that you essentially start watching, and then you click to actually go to full screen and watch the rest of it on desktop these days. So it's just, now it's actually going to start playing the video. So videos that start with like in-video ads or something along those lines, or they take way too long to get to the point, are even worse of a thing than they've traditionally been on YouTube. So, I mean, the evolution of YouTube technology is one of the reasons why I follow the multimedia meta. It is huge. It is an absolutely huge thing. And YouTube is far from stagnant. Years ago, when YouTube had more of a monopoly on online video, and the technology hadn't become standardized to where Motor Trend can actually have their own CDN, years ago, before that all happened, YouTube was a bit lazier. And there was a time in the 2000s, mostly, when YouTube was actually behind its competitors, and competitors were able to thrive in tech features, and competitors were able to thrive and develop as competitors to YouTube until YouTube caught up. YouTube, for example, went up against Rever, who pioneered ad revenue sharing before YouTube actually did. And livevideo.com used to be a YouTube competitor that offered no limit on upload lengths and stereo sound when YouTube had a 10-minute limit and only did mono sound on all your videos. And then there was a time when it wasn't officially rolled out that you would even have stereo sound in the first place, and you had to do the equals FMT18 or whatever it was at the end of your URLs to upgrade to the hidden upgraded sound mode on YouTube videos. Then, of course, there was a whole thing where YouTube didn't support HD, YouTube didn't support widescreen. It was all things that YouTube had to catch up to. Today, YouTube is basically the commercial video platform out there, and the second largest social media platform in the world behind only Facebook in terms of monthly active users. So, the YouTube of today, needless to say, is incredibly different from the YouTube of the 2000s when I got started. Following this technology is pretty useful and pretty handy. It's good to know what you're talking about because you follow this stuff every single day. And so that's why the multimedia meta is a thing on my channel. I've been involved with YouTubing and other stuff like this long enough that I would be lazy not to throw in my opinion and 2 cents on various things. It's a niche thing. Not a lot of people are going to like it outside of content creators. This is not going to draw the largest audience. It's not going to get the most views. But it's something where I really feel like I've been around this stuff long enough that I absolutely should be saying something about the current state of things. Regardless, though, recently, as you've seen with the views, and as you've seen with the algorithm actually passing my stuff around again for the first time in years, retro clearly is my mandate. So I'm here today to announce the multimedia meta stuff is probably not going to be very common outside of the quarterly releases by Streamlabs and Hatchet, and I'm questioning those as well. I think the Streamlabs, Hatchet quarterlies that I've been covering for the past 2 years have a credibility problem, and that is what goes into the numbers. Primarily, that Twitch gets to use all of their watch hours, while YouTube and Facebook are restricted to gaming only. And I haven't been the only person starting to wonder about that lately. There have been people at YouTube, mostly people that have left by now. There have been people at YouTube that called out Streamlabs and Hatchet because basically turning into like a marketing wing of Twitch, because Twitch has this thing where they're really good at marketing, making themselves look bigger than they actually are. The truth of the matter is that they're very niche. They're primarily still, after all these years of expansion categories, a gaming platform. Majority of the watch hour still goes to game streaming. So it's just, Twitch is what it is and has been what it has been. But in terms of its size, it's more like Dailymotion than a major platform. It doesn't even make the list. Quora, the question and answer website, makes the Statista list of largest social media platforms. Twitch does not. But if you want something a little bit more down to earth in terms of evidence of the differences between Twitch and YouTube in terms of their size, watch some IRL streamers on Twitch. Look at the various times when IRL streamers get approached by people and they're like, are you a YouTuber? Are you filming a TikTok? Are you making a video? They always ask about YouTube and TikTok, and they have to correct them and say that they're streaming on Twitch. Just shatters the big purple fishbowl, doesn't it? It shatters the big purple fishbowl about how small Twitch really is. So what do you think is available for an audience on there, especially with kingmakers and big streamers getting special treatments, especially with what they rolled out recently? Let's set up browser mode. We have Streamlabs, Stream Hatchet. We'll get to that shortly. But I want to actually go over to my Twitter, and I want to hammer something home, because there's people on Twitch that are celebrating a couple of things. First, TwitchCon San Diego is going to have a mask mandate, which might be weird because BA5 is going around right now, but there is no real variant that looks like it's going to take over in the fall. So we're going to have to see what happens by October. It's middle of August right now. So TwitchCon San Diego having a mask mandate might actually be too much of a reaction if we look at the fact that California's COVID numbers are already dropping. So indicating that BA5 may have done the most damage that it's going to do. It might be a little boost of resurgence when the schools start back up. But BA5 was the big summer variant. It affects things similar to Delta. There's an increase in severity of symptoms relative to previous Omicrons. And in Connecticut, the numbers are basically being affected like it was Delta all over again. So we'll have to see what the situation is in California when TwitchCon San Diego rolls around. Of course, you can't be too careful when it comes to COVID. You can't be too careful. The studies are coming out right now that are starting to study the long-term effects of even mild infections, and it's not looking good. Look, those of you that had it and lost your sense of taste and smell, that's because the virus went after the parts of your brain that process that stuff. So we know we have something that goes after parts of the brain. Why won't that lead to increased risk for things like dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that? We just got to wait for the science to confirm if there is a link. So, but there's studies coming out on that showcasing that even mild infections can be a problem in the long run. And the thing is, we just plain haven't been around enough to see what the long run is. So the American government and the CDC, with the midterms coming up, trying to pirouette around this issue, no. I'll start taking them seriously again when they're not being blatantly influenced by an upcoming election. Either way, let's see here. And I'll keep wearing the mask, and when the bivalent booster comes out in the fall, I'm going to go, be sure to pick that up ASAP. Let's minimize our live control room here, and let's look at browser mode with some remaining Twitch odds and ends. TwitchCon San Diego, we're all set with that. But let's see here. Do I still have the graphics thing in here? I think that's React mode. All right. People are already talking about, the custom tags are coming out on Twitch. Oh, boy. This is yet another example of how custom tags on Twitch are yet another example of how Twitch is basically repeating its history, repeating itself. Tags have already come and gone on YouTube. Tags are not anything serious on YouTube. Tags are a mostly deprecated feature on YouTube. So, they're very much in a sunset period right now. The only use they have is for things like if you have something that's commonly misspelled. The description's right there. You just poke around and you'll see in no uncertain terms when YouTube will tell you that, tags. They do minimal stuff for your video other than helping with spelling errors and stuff. And the reason being is because, of course, it's pretty obvious. YouTube has moved on from tags and hashtags. Hashtags could be useful, but for the most part, if you look at the tech progression on YouTube and why they're so obsessed with algorithms and what the algorithms do year after year, one of the patterns that you see over and over again is that YouTube moves away from systems that people can game towards systems that computers control. Why? Because of what it means to ban somebody off the platform for breaking a policy. If you have somebody who's a content creator, maybe they still want to watch. They don't want to, they don't want any hard feelings or anything. But if your choices are between banning a bunch of your users or setting something up so that what they're doing that's wrong no longer works, why wouldn't you go with the latter? That keeps them as viewers and stuff, and when they find out or figure out or start to wonder if what they're doing isn't working, they stop doing it anyways. But you don't have to ban anybody and all the bad feelings that come along with that. So it doesn't surprise me at all that YouTube moves beyond systems that people are able to game in favor of stuff that technology can take care of for them. So here we see Twitch rolling out custom tags, people already joking about how they're gonna spam custom tags. Let me just say before any of that starts happening, of course we already know it is. Twitch just isn't doing anything about it. Twitch already has in their community guidelines misinformation. One of the examples is posting misleading metadata as grounds for a community guidelines strike and getting suspended off the platform. Now, we know that Twitch has enforcement issues. When don't they have enforcement issues with their own policies? Because not that long ago, a bunch of large streamers were abusing the VTuber tag. And what happened to them? They just, day after day after day, they were abusing the VTuber tag and stuff along those lines. And what happened? Now, people with real cameras abusing the VTuber tag. Whatever happened to any of these people? But I'm just going to say, despite Twitch's issues with discipline, that they already have something on the books. So if they feel the need to start doing something about people abusing the tag system, like people eventually did on YouTube, they already have a way of responding to it. Something to think about. And that's really the thing, you know, when it looks like cheaters are winning because they're abusing something that you use correctly, of course, it's going to be something that doesn't help people's perception of the platform. The same thing was an issue on YouTube, by the way. This is, again, Twitch loves to repeat YouTube's history. So there used to be something on YouTube that is now something that will get you a community guidelines strike called tag stuffing. Basically, you'd take a whole bunch of stuff for the search engines to pick up on. You put a bunch of random words at the end of your video descriptions. So there's still some videos out there that are doing this. They'll probably eventually get strikes if they're reported enough. But it got to the point where if you weren't doing that, you were at a disadvantage. So YouTube had to start enforcing stuff in order for the playing field to be leveled so you could stop getting surpassed as a YouTuber trying to grow as a content creator by people that were, quite frankly, cheating. There was also issues, and PewDiePie even admitted to this in an interview he did a long time ago, with people getting credit for views by F5ing their own videos until it was patched out, of course. So all these I got mine, sucks to be you type things that become meta until, you know, there's some kind of crackdown on it. It's just, yeah, we've seen this before. So now we got to see what happens with Twitch with the custom tags. It's interesting, again, you want to talk about the Twitch Bowl effect and Twitch streamers acting like the rest of the world doesn't exist. Yeah, you want to talk about Twitch streamers pretending that stuff that hasn't already existed on YouTube before. People are celebrating custom tags, and I'm like, where were you like when YouTube started doing this? You know, tags came and went. It was actually one of the points here. By the way, our token dislike is already here, and it's 5:33 at the Geek House. I saw when we got that third concurrent for about a minute, so like I told you, the parasocial whack job is on U.S. time. So, but that's nothing surprising. Anyways, but yeah, so tags came and went. That was actually one of the things that people leaving to become small streamers on Twitch were talking about a couple of years ago before the lockdowns totally scrambled everything in terms of numbers. They said, oh, yeah, well, first I tried tags, those got deprecated, and hashtags, those nothing works. I can't get the algorithm to pick up my videos. I'm sick of fighting the algorithm in order to get my stuff seen. Either way, misinformation, misleading metadata is already something that Twitch can do something about. So whenever they decide to level the playing field when people are spamming, then I'm just saying right now, I know they don't have things usually as developed as YouTube, but this is not one of those situations here. All right, what else do we have in the Twitter feed before we go to the Streamlabs Stream Hatchet stuff? So we have that's going on. We have the mask mandate at TwitchCon that's going on here. etc. Most of the other stuff that I can talk about is related to the main topic, so we're going to do that. We'll get to that after a jazz intermission here. Let me just say, when it comes to the retro stuff, retro has been fun to get into. I'm glad people like it. And I'm glad the algorithm actually does something with it. This has been a combination that's been very hard to come across. Here's how it has traditionally worked. My tech videos were something that people liked, but the algorithm didn't do very much with, whether it was high use of ad blockers or different CPMs or more niche topics that only nerds would like, who knows. But my my tech videos, that's why you have Windows 8 versus the Dellosaurus hitting 100,000 views after many, many years, but nothing else really coming close to it. Dell Optiplex, a new Dellosaurus has been stuck in the 30s for years now. So it went viral a couple of times, or the algorithm passed it around a couple of times in the mid-2010s. But it's been a situation where I've sat back and I've been frustrated watching the washer and dryer video do better in the long run than a lot of my tech videos did. And I was like, it's just disgusting. You see the algorithm not supporting my tech videos, then you see arrogant people who have incredibly narrow interests that make me wonder about why their interests are so narrow that won't watch tech videos unless it's literally the same computers over and over again. And of course, like I've said, if I make the same videos over and over again on the same computers, people will accuse me of milking something, or I'll go stale, or I'm chasing after the olden days, or whatever, stuff like that. I mean, the stuff that I do for videos has needed a breath of fresh air or something like that for a very long time. And it looks like, based on what I've seen with the algorithm picking up, even videos like the Daewoo video and passing it around a little before shutting it off, of course. The most obvious example, I really have to put some plumber's tape in this thing or get something new. The most obvious example, this thing is a lost cause. 2 years old, and it's probably leaking somewhere around the threads inside the cap, but it's just a disaster. Maybe get a real cup or something, but then it won't keep things cold for long. So here's the thing, though. The algorithms hit on all cylinders, though. People like that stuff. It ties in with the tech stuff that I already do. And at the very same time, the algorithm will actually do something with it. It's nice to see, finally, something that works. But this hasn't been without its side effects. You haven't seen much from me this week, because we still have a bit of a we've had a bit of a heat wave going on with Florida level weather. So most nights I was coming home and maybe doing something with this nice fancy setup I have nowadays, but then just completely shutting everything off, walking across over to there and playing Super Mario World on the Sanyo TV. So here I am. I spent years. I got a setup with a 40-inch main screen, a side screen over there that works well on a custom stand. I have 5.1 surround with real speakers going to an AV receiver that takes multiple inputs, even as a radio tuner if I want to listen to the radio for whatever reason. I have the LED lights and stuff like that. I have Geek House Dark Mode, Geek House Club Mode, the whole 9 yards. I have all this stuff that I've been building up for years, and I'm shutting all of it off, just doing retro mode, which is the 2 middle lights, switching to tungsten and going down to about the level of a 40-watt bulb, like you've been seeing in the videos, when I have the closing segments of the videos, and then just firing up Super Mario World on the tube TV. Why? And I think it comes down to something that gamers, especially younger gamers, need to think about. The simplicity of gaming is what can be what makes it recreational. You don't have to be complicating the heck out of your gaming experience with people, their various opinions, even reviewers. You know, get a game, get something to play it on, sit down and enjoy it. You know, if there's jerks on Xbox Live, disconnect from Xbox Live. If there's drama on Twitch about some game or whatever, shut it all off. Shut all that crap off. Filter it all out. It's your time, just you and the game. You worked for this, whether through getting your schoolwork done or through working at your job or what have you. You worked for this. Enjoy it. And I think the simplicity of not even having a fancy setup, just having a good game and a way to relax and play it is something that I've kind of gotten away from in this day and age where I'm grinding in MMOs on screen number 1 with podcasts going on screen number 2, not even paying attention because the game is so easy, like Elder Scrolls Online, as I'm busy catching up on stuff on here and just feeling like I didn't accomplish much of anything when everything's all over. It's just overload. I've had more fun playing Super Mario World on a tube TV than anything modern. I have the Stray game, but I've never played it. It's still sitting here on the computer, purchased, installed, haven't fired it up. It's just crazy. The reason why I'm emphasizing Super Mario World, despite getting the PlayStation, is because I figured to settle back into tube TVs and getting used to them again, with the Sanyo and all that other stuff, I figured what I would do is my Super Mario World cartridge from my original Super Nintendo, the pack-in game from Christmas '94, Super Mario World, I used to have that 100% complete with 96 and 95 for the spring and the fall games on the cartridge. While I was off at college, my younger step-relatives played my Super Nintendo and they came over the folks' place. They deleted my save games. My Mario All-Stars survived, Super Mario World did not. Now, of course, with my non-luck, I'm sure that the save batteries will die in those cartridges because they're on the original save batteries from the 90s still. And they will, when I get this done, and I'll just have to do it all over again. But it's been fun playing a simple Mario game. Not worrying about anything else, shutting everything off, turning off the internet, and just going over and just playing something. I mean, this is the simplicity, this is the simple gaming that I grew up with, and I think it's the simple gaming that we have to introduce these younger generations to that grew up with Xbox 360 or something, and the internet has always been there. I mean, isn't that what we're worried about right now with social media and the way Instagram is affecting young people? Isn't that what we're worried about right now? I mean, think about it for a second. The thing that has gotten Facebook and Instagram federally investigated here in the United States is this issue where the internet is something that's always in your pocket and you can never get away from it. In my day, if you had someone bullying you at school, you got out of school and they, unless they followed you home or something, that was it. You actually got to unplug. Not in this day and age where people are addicted from a young age to stare at feeds on phones and just sit there scrolling all day. So the ability to unplug and learn that the world has existed for a very long time before smartphones changed a bunch of stuff is probably one of the best things I can recommend to Zoomers in terms of keeping their mental health in one piece. Not everything you do needs to be on social media and have a comment section. You don't need to stream every single game that you play. Matter of fact, I would go so far as to say that game streaming and gaming are two different things because of the things you have to pay attention to when streaming and also the importance of concentrated coolness in your content. A lot of the people that are streaming video games for a living are former esports players who have known skill and a reputation for playing video games really well. And a lot of them, especially Ninja, have gotten their viewership by getting good at games when they already had a big gaming background in the first place and they were already good enough to play professionally. So it's not anything special if you play a video game like literally everybody else who plays a video game, only you feed it through a streaming PC and put it on the internet. You got to find something else that makes things interesting and makes people want to watch. It's one of the reasons why I've backed off at some game streaming myself. I've been thinking a lot about this in terms of how it's not really gaming if you're streaming all the time. And the simplicity of what I've been going through at Super Mario World over there as I try to get my 100% complete cartridge back has reminded me very, very, very much of that. And the same thing with, playing through ESL High Isle or playing Stray or any of the games in my Steam backlog, PlayStation backlog, PC backlog, the whole 9 yards. It's not the same to stream them as it is to play them. So don't ruin the experience of experiencing these games for the sake of numbers. Something very seriously to think about. So I'll tell you right now, my setup for retro with the tube TV, for authenticity's sake, is going to just be me and the TV. I'll probably almost never stream anything off it. I am tossing around the idea of something similar to a camcorder Let's Play for like capturing the feeling of going over a friend's house or something like that. If I can get the tube TV set correctly to display somewhat okay on camera. That was one of the problems, of course. Otherwise, the only thing I'm thinking of doing is taking pictures of the Daewoo TV to use as overlays, maybe put in a scanline filter, and then play games through modern consoles. Save the retro stuff and its authenticity for when it's just me. So I went to all the trouble to put a retro setup together, but I'm not going to bastardize it by introducing, modern type stuff to it in large amounts and ruining my experience with games I never got to play back in their day. So that's something really that you got to think about with these kinds of things. And I imagine it's harder too for younger people too, who've grown up with smartphones, especially, the Zoomers and whatnot. The internet has always been something close by to you. It's not really something you had to go searching for, like in the dial-up days. In my high school days, the only internet at school was dial-up in the library that you had to ask permission to use. And it was like 28.8K, not even 56K, which was the highest dial-up speed. And you would get randomly disconnected without warning. So it was good for viewing a couple HTML text-based pages, but not very much, especially in the small amount of time you got to use it. It was very easy to unplug back then. It was very easy for your problems to go away once the bullies went back to their house and didn't bother you and stuff. Not the case on social media these days. Little wonder we have young people taking a lot of stuff on the internet far too seriously and making themselves look like and looking rather off-putting in the process, like the angry small streamer issue I had earlier this week, which is a blog entry. Not going to get into it too much on this channel because fundamentally, other than the names and faces involved, it's nothing I haven't seen before at this point. Someone getting too worked up on the internet, like all those other angry small streamers I've seen start stuff on Twitter. It's been a very, very regular thing. That's why I'm so cynical of it. That's why I'm so critical of it. It's just, it's pointless drama that doesn't need to exist. But I think we planted the seeds for this when we thrust this technology upon the world with smartphones, always on internet, and wireless internet. The internet can be in your pocket now, never more than like a grab your phone away. We planted the seeds for this crap when we unleashed this technology upon the world and then scrambled trying to figure out what it was going to do to people, especially kids. Now, it is partially our fault that we have the mental health crises that we have today for our youngsters. Even as conservative voices, like in some of the hick towns around here where I'm at, are fighting against more mental health resources in the schools for this kind of stuff. To try and play catch up to what we've done to our children with this technology. It's insane. Yeah, this Genesis thing. I put that over there. So, all right. What are we at for lifetime? 40 minutes. Let's go over Streamlabs Stream Hatchet Q2 2022. And I'm just going to say, one of the things that's changing on this channel, multimedia meta is going to kind of drop down a bit because it's a very slow-moving topic. There are some things I'm saying today about Twitch and YouTube that I could have said 2 years ago, and nothing has changed because, well, YouTube and Facebook aren't making the progress that they should be making. The other thing that we got to remember, too, is the loaded nature of these numbers. So I'm not even going to punch in the audience ratios or anything into that spreadsheet that I keep on stream. I'll do that off stream later on. I'm getting to the point now where the multimedia meta is going to be something I don't talk about a lot on this channel outside of the releases of these quarterlies, and I'm questioning the quarterlies. The biggest problem, like we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, is that Twitch gets to use all their numbers, but YouTube and Facebook are limited to game streams only, so as an apples-to-apples comparison, it just doesn't work. And I've seen some YouTube brass call out Streamlabs and Stream Hatchet for doing this. One of the ongoing problems with Twitch is they market themselves into looking way bigger and way more mainstream than they actually are. I mean, they're even, working on the marketing for TwitchCon San Diego coming up in October. Fundamentally, though, Twitch is a wonderful example of, there we go. Twitch is a wonderful, wonderful example of strong marketing and what it can do here. The problem is when third parties start becoming part of this problem. Streamlabs and Stream Hatchet Q2 2022 live streaming reports. Here it is. I'm not going to show the whole article. I'm only going to show the pie charts when we get to them. Last quarter, we began to see growth on Twitch. Let's begin. So keep in mind, as we go through all these numbers, that fundamentally the big thing with numbers, as any analyst type like myself who's worked with data science and whatnot will tell you, that your numbers are never as important as what goes into them. If you run a manufacturing facility, for example, and you're manufacturing 100 widgets an hour, you need to know what goes into that 100 widgets an hour. How are you able to make 100 widgets an hour? Are there safety issues? Are there other things going on, etc.? And the same thing is true for these Twitch numbers. What goes into the numbers? We know that YouTube and Facebook are limited. Twitch is not. But Twitch is still primarily a gaming site, still primarily a gaming platform. Their expansion categories, particularly just chatting, continue to grow, but I'm wondering if that's masking a decline somewhere else. Why don't we go to Sully Gnome and also bring in, what's the latest on that number I've been keeping an eye on with the Sully Gnome lifetime chart for that. Let's actually put that on screen first here. Browser mode. Here's the Sully Gnome lifetime chart. What matters is the gray. The green is kind of the flux of the ups and downs and stuff. Looks like there's a bit of a boost going on. Maybe some special event is coming up. But for the most part, Twitch in 2022 has been in the middle of this box, meaning they've lost their viewership from 2021 and are trying to hold on to the viewership they gained in 2020 before the pandemic lockdowns introduced a whole new generation of people to online media. Also, by the way, people got into content creation with their own stuff that they might have bought for remote work or remote learning or something along those lines. But even in 2020, the numbers dropped down to the bottom of the box in the summertime. A lot of the longevity of the continued success of Twitch, by the way, is also tied to whether there's a variant that's scaring people into not going out and doing stuff like BA5. There is no clear successor lined up for the BA5 COVID variant yet, so unless monkeypox starts scaring people, we're probably going to see these numbers drop when people start doing things again that they might have been too intimidated to do sometime over the last 2 years. And there's already people out there that are doing it, not wearing masks, etc., but more will join them as, COVID continues to evolve in a direction where there isn't a dominant variant to be concerned about. I'm particularly curious about the effect when the bivalent boosters come out this fall, because the next booster is supposed to be released in the EU. I think they already have theirs. It targets Omicron specifically. The United States, the regulators over here required it to target BA5, the current dominant variant. So our shots are actually going to be newer technology than the EU's when they launch. But I'm curious, when people get those bivalent boosters, how does it make them feel about doing stuff? Then we get the numbers for the longevity of it all and see how long the protection lasts versus the last generation that we had before. So a lot of these numbers, even with Twitch being able to tread water, a lot of these numbers are boosted right now because of the current state of the pandemic. I am curious what happens when people feel better about doing stuff and not spending as much time watching stuff on the internet. So that's the background to this context here. So here's the splits for everything. Last quarter, we're going to see YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, begin to slow down this quarter, and that trend continues. All three platforms saw declining growth compared to the previous quarter. Twitch continues to be the largest live streaming platform. Yeah, really. They're getting propped up by the numbers. 5.64 billion hours watched, 9.6 million unique channels streaming. Despite the decrease in growth, Just Chatting reached its highest quarterly hours watched with 828 million hours. Now, here's the thing. I'm curious about that because Just Chatting is one of those bonus things that we get to include in the Twitch numbers. But if YouTube had vlogging and YouTube Live and stuff like what I do in their numbers, it wouldn't even be close. One of the things that some of the YouTube brass that have called out Twitch for these quarterlies have been talking about was the Johnny Depp trial earlier. So Twitch made a big deal out of a Spanish streamer getting 1 million something concurrents. The Johnny Depp trial, the feed that Asmongold of all people was doing reactions to on his channel, would often hit like 1 million concurrents day after day after day. So the numbers that are significant on Twitch are something that YouTube sees more often, especially when you start thinking about things like presidential debates and political events that the mainstream media streams on YouTube. And then you consider the audience for those major events is often divided up between CBS, ABC, NBC, the whole 9 yards. So the numbers are actually much higher than any concurrent counter that you see on any mainstream media's stream of the event. And so this is all marketing. It's like guerrilla marketing for Twitch to make Twitch look bigger than it actually is, because Twitch's numbers are less restricted. I'm actually thinking, since I have a background in data science and I have Power Query set up, I have a tool actually that I use to keep an eye on audience ratios, although I know Twitch is like high 20s right now. YouTube and Facebook, I can do that later. But the other thing, too, that I got to think about with regards to all of this is, what if I subscribed or signed up for access to the Twitch API or the APIs that the numbers for this come from, and did the real comparison by eliminating all the expansion categories from Twitch's numbers? That already exists on Sullynome, but Sullynome doesn't want people scraping the data because that's a hobby project. I want access to Sullynome's sources. Get access to Sullynome's sources, get a real number for Twitch that doesn't include just chatting, doesn't include travel and places, doesn't include talk shows and podcasts. Force all three platforms to be just gaming, and then see what that looks like. Maybe call it Real Twitch or something. See how far back the data goes. This is one of the projects that I'm working on. Of course, the retro stuff is far more important. But here you go. Here's the splits right here. Twitch, 76% of hours. So is it hours watched? 92% of hours streamed. So still, you see, even with this weird set of numbers, you still have a problem with the audience ratio and far too many people streaming on Twitch for Twitch to be able to get them audiences. And it's interesting because Twitch actually, if we look at the last 90 days on Sullynome, has signs of a shakeout going on where, let me go to Twitch, let me go see the Sullynome 90 here. Yep. Over the past 90 days, browser mode, past 90 days, Sullynome 90 being shown here in dark mode with the dark mode filter. Here's what it looks like the regular way. Oh, I already had it set to dark mode, so it was just kind of redundant. This is just a flat 90 days, not necessarily the quarter. But over the past 90 days, the hours watched and average viewers are all down 3.7%. But the average channels is down 4.4%. So there's less channels broadcasting. The drop in broadcasters, which is also why the viewer ratio is higher, the drop in broadcasters is actually more so in terms of channels live than the actual viewers on the other side. Take it over to 365 days, and we get to down 1% for these two, 1.6%, down 11% for average channels. That's a shakeout. Shakeout in business is when a market is contracting and the weaker players hang it up and exit the scene. This is what, the big streamers doing the never-ending collabs are trying to survive and keep their sponsors intact and stuff. Then, of course, you have all the special events and pseudo TV shows going on with the biggest streamers because they're trying to stay in the spotlight as long as they can, because the little guys who don't have the resources are going to be closing channels. And then where do the viewers go? We know that Twitch is already a big kingmaker with this kind of stuff, so they're probably mostly sending traffic to the biggest streamers anyways, but this just makes things even more of a soft landing, considering the struggles that the platform is going through and has been going through since their peak in 2021. Let's get back to this here, and we have to turn dark mode back on with the plugin. So here we go. Yeah, and let's see the differences in the slices here without even punching the numbers into my usual spreadsheet, because I'm not really going to take these things as seriously as I used to. Twitch is bigger for hours streamed. YouTube and Facebook are bigger for hours watched. So definitely the healthier numbers are on the competing platforms. And let's also not forget the healthier side to streaming on YouTube in the first place is that it can be part of what you do, and you can be known for other stuff. Then your audience shows up, some of them anyways, for live streams. Some of them will show up also after the fact, give you some views as well. And of course, they get into their usual stuff and things along those lines. Let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let me open up my content, something or another here, channel content, see if anybody else stopped by and disliked the stream because I haven't gotten to the main topic yet or something like that. Or, no, Twitch. See, nope, not as of yet. But as it stands right now, 2 concurrents, I probably know who they are, 2 concurrents and only 4 views. After the fact, there are streams that get to like 40 views, 30 views, etc. Some crack 100 views. But watching streams after the fact is going to be an adjustment for people getting used to the way streams work on YouTube. So I don't expect live streams and stream replays, even if I do my darndest to make them worth listening to, like radio shows and an on-demand archive for podcasts and stuff. I don't expect there to be very good numbers on streams for the next couple of years minimum, because we're asking the general public to change their attitude towards a form of video content here. We're asking them to think differently of live streams, and I don't think the general public is in the position to really do that, especially if they're not already nerding out about this stuff on the internet. But I'll let the numbers speak for themselves. 197 views on the Daewoo video, which actually wasn't even all that great compared to the other two, because I didn't follow through on actually trying to fix the Daewoo because of the high voltages in the CRT. CRT video at 649 with 18 likes. The Geek House Reshuffle of 2022 Begins video cracked 100 views. And of course, the PlayStation videos at 2770 with 62 likes. One of my most liked videos ever on this channel. So the mandate is there. Anyways, the mandate is there to go more into retro and do more tinkering with retro stuff in addition to the tech tinkering that I already do. But yeah, Streamlabs Stream Hatchet Q2 2022. I think the Streamlabs quarterlies, these quarterlies I've been watching for the last couple of years, have a credibility problem. And that problem is simply what's included in the numbers. I really don't think I can, with good conscience, continue giving these things a lot of attention until someone comes up with a new methodology for these things. They have changed that before, by the way. They've changed what they report and how they report it on these darn things. But the problem is just Twitch versus the others. Twitch gets an advantage. And quite frankly, calling Twitch the largest streaming platform out there, there are decimal point differences and significant digit differences between Twitch and YouTube. The more YouTube gets it together with streaming, the more these deficiencies of Twitch are going to be exposed, and exposed badly. The House of Cards is going to tumble, and there's only so many mellow hipster dad speeches that Emmett Shear can give at Twitch cons before people start figuring out that, yeah, I don't know, being a streamer can be pretty unhealthy versus just being a content creator and doing stuff and having a $5 a month membership towards things like, have it apply to things towards videos and not just grinding live all the time with streams. So, but that's a totally different discussion that we can save for another day. Let's get up, refill drinks, stretch out a bit. Let's do a jazz intermission, and when we come back, we have a main discussion to talk about the multimedia meta, not the manipulation meta, and my recent argument with the YouTube liaison guy, and just the unhealthy state of YouTube when it comes to content creators who show through their actions that they don't respect their audiences and care more about numbers than the people watching them. Okay, wakey wakey, you little chatter babies. Jazz intermission time is over, and there's the wee wall. I probably shouldn't joke about stuff like that. No, we're not going to talk about Starforge systems or any of that other stuff with regards to some of the news this week and stuff. Along those lines, well, welcome back. I hope I woke you folks up that dozed off during that jazz intermission there. This is something about chill content, though, that is just so appealing, even to a wound-up guy like me. Title of the screen, almost said chatter babies again. Title of the stream is I support the multimedia meta, not the manipulation meta. And what that refers to is this attitude floating among large YouTubers that for some reason they can stop giving a darn about their audiences after a certain amount of growth and view you people as, well, the way marketers view you. The characteristics rather than human beings. You know, it's not that you are you, it's that you are this demographic or that demographic, or you're this or you're that. Just anything except you being a human being that us YouTubers need to respect. And I say time and again, there is a place in this ecosystem for people that aren't actually content creators. You don't have to think of yourself as anything less just because all you do is watch people. You know, you don't have to get involved in this if you don't want to. And you're not any less of a person. Matter of fact, I would dare say that if you are a member of someone, if you're in somebody's audience as somebody who doesn't actually make anything, as long as you don't sound like you know what you're talking about when you clearly don't, and you know, obvious stuff like that, you actually are a better and bigger and better part of this ecosystem than any content creator out there. What's the fundamental problem with an audience full of fellow content creators? They're not going to be around as much because they're busy with their own stuff. Seriously, they're not going to be around as much because they're busy with their own stuff. So your best people are going to be the people that aren't involved in this. But at the very same time, content creators should understand there are other content creators out there who are going to end up as part of their audience. If they go wild with stuff like no self-promotion, then make people walk on eggshells too much, they're going to be essentially committing to hating more and more of their audience progressively until they wake up and they smarten up to the fact that, look, people have YouTube on their phones. Phones have cameras. TikTok put a dent in the established order of this whole scene because people would just take out their phones and make videos without having to buy a special microphone or $1,000 DSLR or key lights or any of the fancy stuff you see in all those highly produced YouTube videos that are out there these days. Much to the chagrin of these know-it-alls out there who think that YouTube is some formula that can be figured out. The truth is it has never been a formula. It was this whole platform, this whole ecosystem, this whole everything was built on people. It was built on personalities. It was built on regular Joes like myself making regular videos that regular people wanted to watch, as opposed to the overproduced, overdone, boring, done-to-death crap that was on TV back in the 2000s, like reality shows that settled into a pattern of they all copied each other's elements so much that Spike TV eventually parodied them with the Joe Schmo Show. Now, the mindless fluff that was on TV in the 2000s, even post 9/11. So in the backdrop of all of this, in the backdrop of the arguments over whether Chris Kirkpatrick was too old to be an NSYNC in his early 30s back in the 2000s, or whether Britney Spears had implants or not, or all that other stuff, all that other mindless fluff that the celebrity gossip magazines talked about way back then. I mean, in the backdrop of all of that, we see the rise of YouTube. And we see regular Joes with cameras and with crappy cameras making vlogs and attracting audiences because there was some authenticity to what was being done back then. And people understood back then, in the day and age where social media meant MySpace and YouTube was basically the video social media, people understood these are human beings we're dealing with. Be a decent person. Don't have little gotchas hidden on your social medias for people to find out and second guess whether they really know what they're watching or not. And it doesn't just have to be angry small streamers like I mentioned in my blog earlier. It could also be even big people at Twitch leadership. What's her face? Let me just go to my Twitter again here. Who is that I saw some really immature stuff from? I'm probably going to get yeah, there we go. Mary Kish, the director of community marketing at Twitch. You go over to her Twitter, at Mary Kish, and you check tweets and replies. You will see some immature, like teenager level, immature responses. Sometimes to haters, yeah. But just the fact that it exists from somebody who is a leadership figure at Twitch, it's just like, really? She's in her 30s. She even says so right on the page. And she's acting half her age. That's a problem when executives are acting half their age. And even bragging about it, too. Oh, I usually dress like a grunge teenager. So I responded to her announcement about the mask requirement at TwitchCon San Diego with some Nirvana lyrics. Seeing if she'd notice. Or is she just copying the style? So far, she hasn't liked it yet, but somebody else did who recognizes that I was referencing Nirvana there. She's doing the torn jeans with like faded whatever and even a little flannel in there and stuff. But yeah, it's just like, if you're acting half your age and you're at your leadership figure in a business, that's fundamentally a problem. So, but the thing is, I think we've lost track of the social side of social media. There is still a social component to it. I'm a person. Hopefully you are a person. If you're a spam bot, go make love with Mother Brain or something. Metroid reference. But if you're a person just like I am, then it is incumbent upon me to be respectable to you. And if you're in my audience, and I supposedly value my audience, and I'm saying the things I say, like, yeah, people that just watch can do more for someone than content creators. They're just as valuable of this as a member of this ecosystem as the people that make stuff. If I preach this stuff and I really believe what I'm saying here, then I better have some respect for the people who are the reason why even the modest amount of success I've had on YouTube has happened over the past 15 plus years. I'd best keep in mind who is responsible for that, and that is you folks. I don't want to sit here like a moron trying to break the system, watching my own videos and refreshing or whatever across multiple devices to give myself fake numbers. That's what real numbers are for. So give a darn about people. And yet we see again and again and again that it is not, that people will actually tell you to do something else. They'll tell you to manipulate your metadata. They'll tell you to change your titles and thumbnails within days if the performance isn't good enough. They'll tell you to do all of this garbage. And I quite frankly don't believe in it. Because, look, you folks, I respect you people. You who've watched over the years, who are watching now, or watching after the fact. I'm not going to be playing stupid little lab rat or Pavlov dog games with the people who are responsible for me ever having gotten anywhere on this platform. No, thank you. There was a time, and I went through that phase like so many other YouTubers, where I thought I could do literally anything in videos and it wouldn't matter because YouTube is always about a little bit of weirdness because it's this weird thing on the internet that only certain people do. No more. We're talking the days when the Freeze Cracker kids, or whoever they were, competitor to screwattack.com, one of the young guys that was in charge of that website back then had a video on his YouTube channel of him literally freaking out and jumping up and down on his bed, throwing a temper tantrum. That was the video. I never understood it. I still don't understand it to this day. He's probably embarrassed about it these days. But even if you don't do outlandish stuff like that, or stuff like the waffle pone freakouts or something like that, even if you don't do outlandish stuff like that, you can still get embarrassed at your own stuff years down the road, or even months down the road, because you get better at making videos. It's just a natural progression curve that we all have as content creators here. But anyways, this attitude, though, that I should be messing with metadata to try and grab in new viewers is just fundamentally insulting. I've already been on the receiving end of an overzealous YouTuber who did exactly that. Once upon a time, not too long ago actually, I came across this video that I hadn't seen before, or so I thought. It had a title I didn't recognize. It had a thumbnail I didn't recognize. But it had a red bar across the bottom telling me I'd already watched it. I was like, what is going on here? I find out the content creator was changing their metadata to try and bring in new views. So here I am. I'm like, what, do I not matter as a member of the audience who's already supported this video, that I almost clicked on it and I was almost duped into watching a video again until I find out, oh, I've already seen this, and I click off of it because this creator here wanted to farm more views by messing with metadata only like days after a video launched. It was pretty insulting. And I can tell you, as a content creator, one of the best things you can do is keep watching stuff. Don't start navel gazing and getting so wrapped up in your stuff that you lose track of what's going on around you. Keep being a viewer, and a regular one at that. Keep getting inspiration from other content creators whose ideas you like and want to bring into your own videos. Keep watching stuff so you don't look like a moron when you're out of touch because you weren't watching enough stuff at the same time that you were making stuff. We know that YouTube started out as the work of individuals making videos. The corporate crap came later, including, for example, Lonely Girl 15, a supposed vlogger in the 2000s who turned out to be an Australian actress. And her show, well, her vlogs were basically a show with a production team behind the scenes. And people were taken aback by that because she looked like a vlogger, like everybody else at the time. So it was a trust issue back then. Today, with the big YouTubers, it's par for the course. When you're a big enough YouTuber, you're going to hire employees and you're going to have a team behind you, and it's going to be mandatory, and you will have an edge over smaller creators who don't have the resources because you can make better use of your time because you hire good people to do your editing, prop setup, whatever it is, marketing, legal, whatever, for you. There are content creators who look like everyday people who have an org behind them. Pokimane. She's not the only one, by the way. Mr. Beast, probably the exact same thing. You know? It's out there. It's out there. It's part of the ruse. Same thing with big streamers, too. It's all part of the ruse. Look like a regular Joe when you're most certainly not. Because looking like a regular Joe might help you connect with your audience and they understand you better. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. It's just... But the more you learn about how all of this works, when you get past a certain size, the more you see that there's people out there that along the way, they stop being YouTubers and turn into executive types running a business. Problem is, when they start doing stuff that a reasonable person should find disrespectful, like the various kinds of psychological mind tricks and other crap, that like playing with thumbnails and metadata and stuff to try and get more people to watch a video. And of course, anything that says to their current audience that their current audience doesn't matter, they are hell-bent on always chasing after new viewers. No matter what, not working with the people who already watch, who now start to feel like they're getting, rightfully so, feel like they're getting blown off by this content creator they've watched and enjoyed, because their content creator, quite frankly, doesn't care about their audience. And they show it through their actions. They can say they do. They can have the fancy, they can have the big thank yous in the YouTube videos. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my Patreons. But then they design their channel so that once you are in, that's it. Doesn't matter. You don't matter anymore. Now it's about getting the next person to watch and the next person to watch. And even if it steps on the toes of your existing audience, because you're playing metadata games and changing thumbnails and changing titles and changing everything as a normal part somehow of what you do. Tell me you don't care about people without telling me that you don't care about people. And this was at the center of the argument that I had with Rene Ritchie, the new YouTube liaison. But we're going to begin with my community post read verbatim. Here is my statement that apparently I wrote this an hour ago now. Yeah, 6:21 at the Geek House. It makes sense. It counts up in hours. It was before 5 o'clock. Looking to do a Friday live at 5 chat stream after resetting my internet, but I'm not waiting until the main discussion of the late night Nerd Lounge to fly the flag that I don't believe in manipulating people for views. I recently got into an argument with the new YouTube liaison on Twitter about thumbnails, but the whole manipulation meta on YouTube is something I utterly detest. If you're a spam bot, you can go make love with Mother Brain. But for the rest of you folks in my audience who are actual human beings, I respect the humanity of my audience as individuals and said individuals' decision to watch my videos and streams or have anything to do with me whatsoever, as opposed to the corporate influenced buzz these days where channels should change titles and thumbnails to chase views. I've already been at the receiving end of an overzealous YouTuber who plays these games. Let's just say it's no fun to see what looks like a new video that you don't recognize, but it has a red play bar under the thumbnail indicating that you've already watched it, and find out it's something completely different. It's someone completely changing their title and thumbnail that nearly duped you into rewatching a video that you already watched because they're chasing numbers. YouTube is also very aggressive at banning people for spam, scams, and deceptive content, as we can see with a simple Twitter query these days. I believe thumbnails have a place as digital cover art, but changing metadata to chase views is an insult to my audience. And who expects me to put my efforts into more or better content rather than psychological head games to manipulate people into clicking on a video? Plus, my numbers have shown year after year that my highest impressions click-through rates come from videos with dull or no thumbnails, indicating that you folks are smart enough to care about the content rather than some screwball way that it's presented to you. I hereby remain humbly committed to the rather simple idea of treating my audience like people as opposed to lab rats or Pavlov dogs, and respecting them as such. Less fluff, more stuff. Now, when it comes to thumbnails and changing them, the analog that I use for thumbnails is obviously DVD cover art. Give me a DVD. Something besides the Joe Schmo show, please. Or the Cyberbully movie. What's this? Lie to Me Season 1. Do I have something that's an actual movie over here? Oh, okay, yeah. This is kind of sad, but anyways. Let's see here. Let's light things up just a hair better. Still gotta get that light set up that's been stuck back there for a month. Once upon a time, there was a Steve Irwin Crocodile Hunter movie. Crikey, that's a big snake. You know that guy. He unfortunately was killed in an incident involving a stingray in 2003, but he was always a wild and crazy animal handler, and he inspired a lot of people to do, like, really entertaining shows, stuff like that. But this is an actual movie. This is an actual movie involving the guy. Now, if I were to re-release this, maybe I'd change the cover art or something as part of a re-release or something, but I absolutely would not be constantly changing stuff to manipulate people into buying this movie twice. That, unfortunately, is the sort of thing that we see on YouTube these days. That in the name of chasing more numbers, you blow off or in some other way insult your existing audience in order to do so here, in order to chase all those views. Let me go to channel content so I can get to my analytics suite. We're going to be flipping through lots of browsers as we continue talking about this whole issue here. So the manipulation meta, I talk about the multimedia meta. It's basically talking about how content creation works and stuff along those lines, what's going on with the industry and everything. Manipulation meta is this egotistical, arrogant idea out there that there are certain best practices you have to follow and manipulate people into clicking on videos. There's things like, for example, flashy thumbnails, stuff along those lines. Now, over on my Twitter, and I posted a clip to this on my community page as well. Unfortunately, YouTube clips are still very primitive. You can't even use them on YouTube and have the preview show up. They work on external social media, though. I went through and dug around Kitchen Nightmares, which has its own YouTube channel now. Film Rise, who owns the distribution rights or whatever to it, has this channel these days. I went and looked up the Sebastian's episode from season 1, the overly complicated pizza place. Some of you may have seen that episode. There's a point in the video where Gordon talks to the restaurant owner and says, "Why are you so obsessed with being famous and franchising and all this fancy stuff when you could focus on the basics, essentially? Have a restaurant cook your ass off for the love of what you do and bring in customers." That's what I think is going on. There's a lot of people talking about growing your YouTube channel or growing your Twitch stream or whatever that are fundamentally telling you to disrespect your audience as people in order to do so, as if not respecting your audience in some way, shape, or form is a way to go. Look, there's enough crap going on in the world these days because people are jackasses to each other. We don't need any of that here. All right, let me see here. And then I see some of the responses. From some of the other YouTubers on Rene Ritchie's post here. Let me see here. So the idea here is people put the cart before the horse, and they lose track of the basics in the name of building a brand or whatever the stuff is here. Let me actually read this off, and you can see how I very quickly turned away from the way things work. I very quickly turned away from he retweets a lot of responses to his tweets. August 11th, creator liaison Rene Ritchie. I recently found out through a Creator Insider video that he's relatively new as a YouTuber. Let me check out his channel. He says he started his channel in 2020. Is that really true? That no wonder he's so naive then. He's been involved in the industry for a long time. But yeah, gray-haired guy.
YouTube wants an actual real.
YouTube wants an actual blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's darn autoplay. 329,000 subscribers. Oh, what's he talking about? Saying that he started making videos during the lockdowns. His channel is circa April of 2011. What is his oldest upload, since that's still in there? Oh, okay. Hello again. Uh-huh. So he might have had stuff on here before, but he basically started making videos during the lockdowns as part of the current iteration of his channel that's been around since 2011. Okay, I see what he's doing. In a sense, we're doing the same thing here, except I left all my old stuff up. So the whole meta side of it and things like that, I didn't start thinking about until 2020 as well. Yeah, okay. This is my new channel. Should we do a reaction to this? Should we do a reaction to this? What does react mode have in it? Let's see, let me fire that up here. It still has that monster video from earlier. the multimedia monster. Wow. Take that out of there. Save that for another time when I want to use this kind of stuff. Can I get the Firefox? Can I link the Firefox browser? If I link this, what does it look like for this guy? There we go. The reaction mode. It's linked, but we're gonna have to let's load some stuff up here and let's see. All right. So here's the guy. Why isn't it showing? Let's do reaction mode. Let's do reaction mode. Oh, it's turned off. That's why. Oh. Oh man, we did crop the heck out of this, didn't we? He's got a personal logo, all this other stuff. So how did his YouTube channel begin? Let me get the full context of all of this. Let me get the full context of all of this stuff here. How did his YouTube channel begin? He does like tech essays and stuff. This is before he became the YouTube liaison, and he picked up where Matt Koval left off here. Let's watch his first video. There we go. That should work. Let's watch his first video, and if he has ads, hey, we'll let him do the ad. We'll let the ads play and stuff. He's got a personal logo and everything, so he's obviously one of those brand builder types. What's his channel about? If it'll play.
I'm Rene Ritchie,
And this.
this,
And this.
Okay, so he's got connections in the industry. All right, when did we actually get back to him talking? Oh, literally the whole video is like all kinds of other stuff. Okay. Let's go to 25 seconds
fascinated
in.
by Apple. I've been covering the company since the launch of the original iPhone, and they've just come to touch so many aspects of our culture, our relationships.
Yeah, so he does tech videos kind of closer to Linus style with the high production value and talking about things. So let's just bounce forward a little further.
And what's just sensationalism, desperate to manipulate and exploit us. It all starts here.
Wait. What's this with sensationalism? What's he talking about? Maybe I should have watched
with
this.
you, talking not just about Apple, glorified or vilified, but about all the tech that affects all of our lives. And not just about the news, about what's happening and when, but diving deep into the analysis behind it, the how, the why. Most important.
Hey, by the way, folks, this has 113,000 views, circa March 30th, 2020. If you think that online media belongs completely to people that are like under a certain age, you're wrong. Welcome to YouTube, where folks might actually have a little bit of gray hair as content creators, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just means we have more experience and probably some more birthdays, too.
I want to start a new conversation with you about what's real and what's not, what's fact and what's not, what's serious and meant to help and educate us, and what's just sensationalism desperate to manipulate and exploit us.
Well, gee, that sounds familiar. How interesting how things change in 2 years.
It all starts here with this brand new channel and a brand new daily analysis show, because that's just what I do. But I also have a few other exciting new projects coming up that I really can't wait to share with you.
Like getting a microphone that won't pick up your room reverb.
And here's where you all come in. I'm starting fresh, starting over, building this all back up from the ground up, and I really need your help to do it.
So he did have a YouTube channel before 2020. He just wiped everything out and started over. Something that some people tell me to do from time to time. But I don't know. People like the old stuff, and they like the videos that the algorithm passes around, like the tech and stuff like that.
So, please hit subscribe and set that bell gizmo to always.
Well, there's a call to action, SOP these days.
It's really the only way YouTube will actually tell you when each and every new episode goes live.
Like and dislike are algorithm buttons too, by the way. So if you want to see my stuff on your front page, click like.
Share this new channel with everyone you know so we can get this all going again.
In other words, don't depend just on the algorithms. Don't just depend on the algorithms. Do a call to action to get people to share stuff because, well, the algorithms are only going to do what they're going to do, and you should never depend on them for anything.
And fast.
Something we've seen recently, haven't we?
And then drop a comment below, letting me know just exactly what you want to see next as we take all this live.
Oh, okay. Here I go freeze framing the guy again. So, yeah. He's not a brand new YouTuber. He's just his current iteration of his channel that follows all the SOPs with the really nice camera that is manually focused and stuff like that. That is circa 2020. And now he's the new YouTube liaison. All right, let's get to the conversation here. That's what I thought was going on. All right, so he has industry experience, he has YouTube experience, and he says he wants to stay involved as a content creator while he's doing this liaison job, so he never kind of loses the view from the ground level. But what is the ground level for this guy if I'm seeing Leo Laporte in his channel introduction video? Now, if you bump heads, or if you bump fists, I should say. If you bump fists with the biggest names in the industry, you're going to get a certain point of view from people that are basically entrepreneurs that walk away from the human side of YouTube in the name of chasing numbers. Where are you going to get the part 2 of the story from? From people that just want others to watch and enjoy and get the basics down pat, and we won't flip out if something goes viral, because there's people out there that have something go viral and they think that's their new normal, that's their big break, instead of just a stroke of luck or something weird with the algorithms. So this all began with a conversation about thumbnails, which I believe are digital cover art. They should never be changed, or maybe once in a while for like a redo or something, but not to the point where you have people that might watch your video again because they think it's something else, which, by the way, YouTube's own support documents for spam, scams, and deceptive content talk about deceptive metadata. Metadata in your videos that tricks your audience into thinking the video is something that it's not. When you have people changing titles and thumbnails to try and suck in more viewers, and the people that have already watched the video might accidentally get duped into watching again, how are you not doing that? How? It's just... Anyways, so the question was, when do you typically change your video thumbnail or title? First hour, day, week, based on performance? Thumb with face for core audience at first, then switch to a hero shot for a casual audience after a few days to trend jack other big videos you see live at the same time? My answer, never, because it's insulting to your audience when they see something they don't recognize with a red bar on the bottom and start wondering if you're trying to dupe them into watching your video multiple times. Speaking from experience. Wouldn't it be his response? Wouldn't it be kind to the far larger portion of your potential audience who missed out on the video because the original thumbnail didn't resonate with them? Didn't I just hint that I care more about my audience than a potential audience? Didn't I just hint that if I succeed in getting people to watch something on my channel, that I want to respect them as human beings and not play some stupid PR stunt that might insult them away? Not everybody has critical mass on YouTube to do whatever and get a couple thousand views every time, minimum. Or have some position in the algorithm, minimum. I said no because you can never please everyone. Respecting the people who like what you do and want to watch more is more important. Plus, YouTube has been rolling out tools like mouse over previews and mouse over autoplays to break through manipulative metadata. That fancy neon thumbnail that Joe What's-His-Face puts on his YouTube video. I just mouse over it. Oh, it's neon pink. You won't believe what this computer, blah, blah, blah. It's just a dude in a room talking. Do I want to watch that when I've already seen them try to twist my arm to get me to click on a video like that? And then today, in today's world, YouTube is rolling out mouse over autoplays. Your video literally starts playing when someone mouses over it on desktop or scrolls to it on mobile. They literally start watching your video as it is. And they have to make the decision to keep watching it or not, with or without sound. This is why I focused on, beginning with the PlayStation video, getting straight into what's going on. Not getting too dramatic, not getting too much like the beginning of a movie, because there's people that are going to see it, and I have only a couple of seconds to let them know what's going on before they move on to something else. It's called a hook. It's called a hook in things like journalism. I call it common courtesy. And, of course, acknowledging the signs of the times. Acknowledging the way things work these days, because there's people who are going to see my video for a couple of seconds, and it will count in some cases as watch time or average view duration. By the way, that's probably going to negatively affect numbers if you run your channel based on that. As I've been finding out with the video that autoplays having issues, making me want to remake some of the old videos I used to make that just say what recently has been going on the channel, like clip compilations and stuff. His response: what if changing thumbnails gave you the opportunity to better learn and understand what really resonated with your audience? Thumbnails are cosmetic, Mr. Ritchie. Thumbnails are cosmetic. If I want to learn what resonates with my audience, I should be making more and better videos, not thumbnails. Not spending time that I could be spending on making better and more videos, trying to suck more viewers into something that's already on the channel. Of course, I bring out the big guns here. What if spam, scams, and deceptive content, which includes misleading metadata, was the most common thing you see people get banned for on here? He never responded to that. I linked to the Google support article, and I linked to the Twitter article. Let me load this up here. And I have to look at it in light mode because dark mode doesn't work on this. So support.google.com on spam, deceptive practices, and scams policies. If you're posting content, don't post content to YouTube if it's any descriptions, misleading metadata, or thumbnails. Using the title, thumbnails, or description to trick users into believing the content is something it is not. Am I linked to that? No, I'm still linked to Firefox. We'll just read it then. Misleading I gotta use something else, Firefox or something else later. Misleading metadata or thumbnails. Using the title, thumbnails, or description to trick users into believing the content is something it is not. That gets you strikes or banned on YouTube. Now look at what he says in response. First, I thought I killed the discussion, but he's probably on Pacific time, so he was having lunch. After he kind of made fun of me for that, he said, I'd urge you to experiment more with thumbnails. I think it's one of those things where when you figure it out, it adds tremendous value for your audience. And here's what I said. As far as thumbnails go, nope. Thumbnails are digital cover art. That's it. Time spent adding value via thumbnails is time not spent adding value via more videos or better videos. I respect my audience, therefore I don't try to manipulate them with metadata. Also worth noting, for all the talk about thumbnails needing to grab people's attention to get people watching your videos, I have persistently seen in the data year after year that the highest impressions click-through rates are from videos with the dullest or no thumbnails. So he goes all Outlook auto-respond here. Very much appreciate your point of view. Yeah, trying to duck out there, buddy. There's not much to this. You're putting yourself in your audience's shoes, and we have YouTubers nowadays that navel gaze far too much. Look, I'm still a viewer. I still watch people on YouTube. I still watch YouTube videos. I still watch streams. I haven't stopped being a member of the audience just because I make my own stuff. And it behooves me. It absolutely is incumbent upon me to stay that way. And so I don't want to do something to my audience that I would find insulting if it were coming in my direction. And I will stop watching and supporting content creators who play these games. Like some of the people that responded, some of these other responses that he got. Wow. Ready for some zingers here? We'll get to the impressions click-through rate shortly. Look at the responses. Look at these opinions. Here's one. Frankly, I'm not a big fan of YouTube thumbnails, especially the ones with exaggerated facial expressions. I typically look at the title, and if it's clickbaity, I'll pass. I just want to know what the video is about. Why do you think that is? Bad experience in the past. A lot of over-the-top thumbnails and titles usually don't deliver. They're more interested in the view than the viewer. That's a good one. Oh, yeah. There's people out there that are more interested in the view than the viewer, as opposed to the social side of social media being a thing on YouTube in the beginning, in the early years when people actually mattered. And it wasn't, corporations using YouTube as a means to an end, and movie rentals and large channels and stuff like that. I just can't believe, we talk about being naive on social media. I can't believe there are these big YouTubers here that will actually out themselves as being into some pretty twisted stuff here. He said, bad experience in the past, a lot of over-the-top thumbnails and titles usually don't deliver, blah, blah, blah. I still spend many hours binging YouTube, but with so much content, a great title is a key differentiator for me. Congrats on your role, by the way. And there's another person. Who's this? Todd and Ryan. Thank you for stating the facts. Exaggerated facial expressions are over the top and unnecessary in most situations. Thumbnails containing such turn our attention away from said videos. If they are one of the only ways to get clicks, we might as well quit. Unauthentic for us. A YouTuber who actually gets it. Nice. Don't see too many of them these days. While we're on the topic, don't you guys have any data on your end that we can share how creators change their thumbnails? What's the factual data you share? So I'm just looking for an API similar to Solinome for YouTube, I'm guessing. Ooh, Marcus Brownlee. I don't plan to. Am I an idiot? Resultant experience would indicate not. Maybe you just know your audience super well, he says. Let's see here. And apparently the justification for this, the justification for thumbnail games is Netflix, like changing the thumbnails on Squid Game over and over again. A Netflix user will browse the app for 90 seconds and leave if they find nothing. Thumbnail artwork is actually Netflix's most effective lever to influence a viewer's choice. A user will look at one for only 1.8 seconds, so Netflix spends huge to optimize them. This is Netflix we're talking about. Things fundamentally, this is a commercial service that's trying to get you to watch videos. But there is no person side to it. It's not like YouTube with the U still in it. Regular Joes making regular YouTube videos, of which there are some very successful ones out there. There's a channel, for example, I forgot the name because I haven't watched it very long, like Post 100 or something. The guy's a municipal worker, works for muni organizations here in the Northeast, drives around unclogging drains to the tune of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of views. Videos of him with his phone unclogging drains, having a huge following on YouTube. There is still a place on YouTube for regular people making regular videos, more stuff, less fluff. And the fun part is when you actually look like someone who's doing their own thing, you stand out as opposed to everybody copying some pastiche to play the algorithm, because algorithms look for stuff that's stylistically similar. All those people making Linus-style tech videos, suddenly wondering why the views are dropping off, because you can't even remember who these people are because their videos all look the same. You'll remember who Linus is, you'll remember who Austin Evans is, you'll remember who Bitwit is, you'll remember who Paul's Hardware is, you'll remember who all these people are, but then everybody else who doesn't have a big name on them, they start to blend together and you forget who's who. And the algorithm blends videos even more and you lose track even more of who's who. So you have a harder time remembering content creators, and then you don't go back and watch them and their views drop because they resemble others way too much and don't carve their own path. This is something that these Twitch streamers that are doing the never-ending collabs to fight the decline of the platform post-lockdown need to very seriously think about sooner rather than later. But Netflix, of all things, Netflix is totally apples and oranges. And people even responded negatively. Oh, geez, that would mess me up if I had seen one version of the image and was trying to find it again. It may be good for the top of the funnel, but not great for engaged viewers. Oh, you think? People need to have something to link to in their head. Renee responds, I imagine for movie studios who change posters box art, you know, that thing I talk about, and publishers who change cover art, decades of experience have shown them the ability to find better ways to engage with new people audiences is far more meaningful at scale than just freezing on first idea forever. Probably, I don't know. I think there may be a difference between physical media and online. Doesn't matter which version I take home from the store. It is forever the same on my shelf, but when it changes on the shelf, so to speak, that makes it harder to find. Shrug. What was the response to this? Is it somebody I have blocked or something? Give me the neutral browser. Where's Microsoft Edge? It says there's a response here, but I can't see it. Is that somebody I have blocked right now? Probably because of some... Yeah, it is. Engaged viewers who recognize the name of the show worse to be baited and thinking a new episode was out when it's not. You say that like it's not a bad thing. If I watch someone's video and I'm like, I've seen this before because they're playing metadata games, I don't appreciate people screwing with my head. And what do you think it does to your average view duration when your fans, of all people, are getting put off by the nonsense you're doing? You know, they find out, oh, I've watched this before, they click off. Your numbers are going to drop now. And your fans might not come back because they don't like you for doing that to them. Where's the responsibility for content creators? Where is the responsibility as content creators? I got to find out why I blocked that guy too. See if I can just drop him down to a mute instead. I've been doing that a lot lately. Folks I might have knee-jerked blocked a year or two ago on Twitter, I've been just putting on mute instead. Like people that are immature or they support something bad or they're anti-vaxxers or whatever. Might keep the anti-vaxxers blocked. I don't dialogue with crazy. Let me continue here. That was a Marcus Brownlee thing. But Netflix, let me tell you something about Netflix. Netflix is a corporation that needs to deliver value for its shareholders. They need to chase numbers. Individuals using social media, however, your audience may consist of people who work in the corporate world or they work for, a company or something. When they come home and they want to watch something, or they're on break at work watching on their phone or something like that, they don't want the same garbage they're dealing with at their day job. I just don't understand why that has to be such a foreign concept. Here's another one. Boy, how often do you change your thumbnails? First hour, day of the week based on performance. I'm still getting the hang of making proper thumbnails. Sometimes the resulting average view duration suggests I'm making bad clickbait, unintentionally tricking the viewer into thinking the content is not what it truly is. And what do you think they think of you for that? And your channel? It's a gaming channel this time too. There should be Twitch stuff in play in terms of building yourself up as a personality. Instead, you have viewers who find out you're just messing with them to chase numbers. Like that other person said earlier, they care more about the view than the viewer. Once I get making proper thumbnails down, I won't be changing them once published unless something like high click-through or low AVD happens again. If I have to reevaluate my thumbnail creation strategy. All this applies to the title as well. Check this out. Here's somebody I will not be watching. How often do you change your thumbnail? Sometimes upwards of 7 to 8 times in the first 10 hours if it's struggling. Tends to push up the 7 10s to 4 or 3 10s. Yeah. And your audience, the people you want to come back, watch, subscribe, support you, buy a membership, whatever, buy your merch, and then you treat them like this. You dupe them into watching stuff they've already seen before, and they're offended by it. There are YouTube videos that people like enough to go back and watch an additional time. But that needs to be something the viewers make the decision to do, not the YouTuber duping them. Let's see here. And this genius right here actually shows a picture. This genius actually shows a picture of someone calling them out in the comments to the tune of and getting likes for it, for changing the title 15 times. His response, yeah, and it's worked. I optimize all my videos. Does it help get more recognition for videos? Yeah, it helps the click-through rate. Some people may have skipped the title, will click a new one. Same goes for thumbnails. Don't be doing that so many times when your audience is just finding out about your new video, whatever the turnaround is, and you're duping them into watching it multiple times. It's just, what? Why do people think this is in any way acceptable? I know there are people out there that don't nerd out on this content creation stuff, that don't understand any of this, and they fall for it. But it's just like, if you have the choice between watching someone who screws with your head and someone who doesn't, why would you watch the person that screws with your head? I mean, especially you think about the recreational context of watching lots of YouTube videos. I'm done with work for the day. I don't want my boss messes with me at work. I don't need anybody messing with me when I'm just trying to relax and watch some YouTube videos on the internet, on my smart TV, on my phone, whatever. Let's see here. Oh, sponsors care about YouTube. So that's all that matters is the sponsors. I know there's this push like, oh, look, a small business created by YouTubers, but you're getting away from the basics of what makes YouTube work. Let's see what this other response was. I usually play it by ear, look at the click-through rates. If it's trending down fast, I'll experiment, see if it'll turn around. Definitely more experiments. So here's the thing, you know what also is in play? You know what also is in play with all of this, trying to manipulate the system? Is that there is a system to manipulate. So the algorithm could just be having a bad day. And also, don't forget, YouTube is about the long run. One of YouTube's strengths is the long run. If people show interest in stuff that has a little bit of some time on it, the algorithm will show them older videos. Or if they show interest in a topic you made a video about years ago. I routinely am seeing game room tours, CRT purchases, and other stuff from a couple of years ago because I'm interested in game room tours and CRT purchases. And for certain YouTubers, that's the one time they made that kind of a video. So I'm seeing someone's 3 or 4 year old videos because that's what I'm interested in. The algorithm's doing what it's supposed to. The algorithm, YouTube's own employees have admitted, does not find an audience for your video. It recommends videos to people that could become your audience. The unanswered question is, where's the connection to getting picked up by it? Nobody's ever going to have a solid answer for that because it's a constant work in progress. And the minute YouTube admits anything, everybody's going to do it and they're going to have to change it. No matter how stupid it is. You could say that the algorithm will pick up your video that if you do a cartwheel sometime in your vlog. You're going to see a lot of YouTubers doing cartwheels because they know, oh, YouTube said that'll get me views. People are like that. That's just a ridiculous example, by the way. All right. Because people are so obsessed with and that's because they're probably doing time-sensitive videos. You do stuff that's not time sensitive, you have plenty of time for the algorithm to be slow as molasses and eventually get you some views. Like I've been seeing for years with tech videos that get views 6 months to a year after I upload something. Long time issue here. Here's a YouTuber whose channel I checked out. They do cooking videos. If it's a 6 or 10 or lower, we change the title or thumbnail. There's something that is not resonating with our audience with that score. You do this in one video, went from 710 to 110 within a couple hours. And plan things out a little better then, you know? And how do you know that's not, you know, the system had something going wrong and it got fixed? If you're talking about waiting hours, what's to say there isn't some YouTube folks who spotted something and ran some change or something that went live, and that's what the explanation is, not you're messing with metadata. Either way. Another person, maybe once or twice, I can't make a thumbnail that isn't a reflection of me. The silly faces and gestures get the views. Good for them. It's not me. So I'll deal with the lack of CTR. I update titles more than thumbs. Then again, you didn't ask that. Hope you're doing well. Another one saying we need A/B testing for thumbnails. People have been saying that for years for people that want to see what works better. Let's see, based on this, they cool to have an option to upload a separate thumbnail for subscribers only. Oh boy, complicating things even more. Why can't you just make a good video? Why can't you just make a good video? Why does there have to be all this extra crap, which, by the way, is going to favor larger YouTubers who have the teams behind them to create multiple thumbnails to experiment with? Some of these people don't even know what they're saying. Still figuring out the metrics indicate when to change it. Oh, let's get into the potentially offensive response. Oh, often. Here's another one. When I look at them, I don't like them anymore. All right. The last thing we should do with this, I mean, you folks know that I don't want to be messing with people's heads to get clicks. I don't believe in that stuff. Let's take a look at my analytics for impressions click-through rate. And let's change the timetable to show like years and stuff. Let's change the timetable to show some years and things like that. Go into advanced mode, set something up. Let's do views and let's do impression. Oh, that's already on here. Let's just remove. I'm just changing up a few things here. We'll change the timetable. We'll change the timetable involved. Put this so it's zoomed the regular way. Let me add impressions click-through rate into my own analytics. Sort by impressions click-through rate, and then we'll take a look at some of these videos and how amazing the thumbnails are. Let's see here. We'll start with the last 28 days. Browser mode. Welcome to analytics land. So the highest impressions click-through rate in the last 28 days. MultimediaJay versus Laundry Pods. That's taken from the video. A landlord that quickly fixes stuff has no thumbnail. Internet time sync, no thumbnail work. Geekhouse 5S goes metal. That's from the video. Twitch September. That's a screenshot. So minimal thumbnail stuff for 27.3 click-through rate. The first thing you notice too, by the way, is the views vary all over the place. There are videos that have gotten a view or two, and there's videos that have gotten hundreds of views. Forza Horizon 5 with no graphics card, by the way, does not have a thumbnail. 26% impressions click-through rate. You think the content matters more than the screwy way that it's presented? Windows 8 Experiment Part 1, getting the darn thing working, has no thumbnail. 22% impressions click-through rate for 35 views in the last 28 days. Let's look at 2022. For 2022, because there's all this talk about how the thumbnails have to get people to want to click on your video. What has the highest impression click-through rate for 2022? Again, Forza Horizon 4 with no graphics card has no thumbnail. People are interested in the content, and it's probably there's a thing with search results. Content wins over presentation. Mandatory fun now. My discussion of the Weird Al Yankovic final CD that came out in 2014, nearly 10 years ago. 19.4% impressions click-through rate. These are some of the highest impressions click-through rates on my channel of 2022. Like, no effort there. New York Zoom, that's Google Earth, nothing there. Jay versus Walmart Kimchi is based on the video, nothing there. Southgate chili with beans, no thumbnail, came from the video. proper thermals on a Core 2 quad with a stock cooler, no thumbnail, no thumbnail, no thumbnail, no thumbnail. All of these videos, they're taking thumbnails from the video itself. No actual thumbnail. Brushing your teeth in the shower, 12% impressions click-through rate. No thumbnail, no well, Picasa, but based on part of the video. No custom thumbnail. Little or no thumbnails for 2022. Highest impressions click-through rate in 2021. Even when sick, nerds will be nerds. 32% click-through rate. Picture of a power supply from the video. No thumbnail. Forza no graphics card to the tune of just shy of 15,000 views. 14,872. No thumbnail. Southgate beef stew redux and then some. No thumbnail. Twitch newbie experience. No thumbnail. New York Zoom. So my impression of the EA Sports guy. No thumbnail. No thumbnail. Da da da. I mean, this is what has the impressions click-through rates. Is it the thumbnail or is it the content that people are interested in? Swimming patio and this finally 11.4% has a thumbnail. So finally at the bottom of the list for 2021, 216 views for the ESO thing from 2020, building a swimming patio in the Daggerfall Overlook. And how much you want to bet my gorgeous healer character was part of the reason why people clicked on it? What else do we want to check? How about 2020? Let's dial in 1120 to 123120. Let's look at 2020. We have to do it this way. Let's look at the screwball year with the lockdowns and everything, and when all the numbers went haywire for 2020. Highest impressions click-through rate. Forza with no graphics card. No thumbnail. Building a computer for dad. No thumbnail. New York City. No thumbnail. 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 No thumb. See what I mean? Here is what I usually do for my tech videos. I use the title screen because once upon a time, YouTube was a bit more strict with their deceptive content policy that you couldn't use something from outside the video as your thumbnail. That's been loosened up, obviously, but I still stick to the old ways for that sort of thing. So this has something resembling a thumbnail, obviously. Nah, it's the kind of title screen I use for my videos these days. No thumbnail, no thumbnail, no thumbnail, no thumbnail. Yeah, when do we actually do? We're down into the single digits now. When are we going to encounter a thumbnail? Here we go. But that's radio style. The whole graphical part of the radio style podcast was a PowerPoint slide. So technically that has no thumbnail either. It just looks like one. All right. Plus there's a big problem where if you have too much English text, then you're limiting the language because, you know, ESL folks, they might not read that as quickly as others and decide to click on it. Capacitor, no thumbnail, no thumbnail, no. How much further do we want to go? This could count as a thumbnail, but it's the intro to the channel. It's an intro to the channel, so of course it's going to have a thumbnail. We're down to like 9%. This is an actual thumbnail, believe it or not. Decommissioning the Delosaurus. So down already to 8.5%. We finally get, now. And how about we do lifetime while we're at it? Let's do, of all time on my channel, what has done the best in terms of impressions click-through rates, which weren't even tracked until about 2018 or so. Forza with no graphics card, no thumbnail, no thumbnail, no thumbnail. It's having trouble because of all the data. No thumbnail, no thumbnail, no thumbnail. So what are you spending your time working on? I mean, thumbnail, I believe in thumbnails as digital cover art, which is why my tech videos have them. But fundamentally, people want to know what the video is about. So in this case, First Impressions of DK Oldies, it's about retro gaming stuff. So you see some retro stuff in the picture, and if English isn't your first language, you're not thrown off by some English text you have to read before and figure out and interpret before you decide whether or not you want to click on the video, which can slow things down way too much. I'd probably watch that video again about when Weird Al had that CD come out, see what's going on with that. 470 lifetime views on that. Not bad. Is that like a tech video from 2014 or something? What was that? Let's just view it. All right. What was that? Season 1? Well, we'll let season 1. We'll let the ad play. right, we'll let the ad play here. Let's mute this. Should ad block this stuff, really. Ow. Well, that woke me back up. Beavis and Butthead Do Americas in the free with ads section. Yep, it was a wacky world of MultimediaJay from 2014.
And this is probably the only chance I'm going to get to do something like this. Today, we are taking a look at Weird Al Yankovic's Mandatory Fun.
Listen to that. Listen to that microphone. If you have headphones, it sounds horrible. People tell me I should drop down my videos to mono sound from time to time, but I wonder, what if I have stereo effects? I need some kind of combo setup. I need some kind of combo setup. Oh, there's a listenable tag in here too now. So think like videos that double as podcasts and stuff. When did this show up? This looks cool. Yeah, there we go.
Which just came out today.
I want to have like a combination of mono dialogue with stereo sound effects for my tech videos at some point. I just can't figure out
The CD in the 90s.
what kind of rig I want to set up for that.
So eventually I did eventually start when I
Yeah, this is better enjoyed with speakers. But there you go, folks. It's just the manipulation meta and stuff like that. Thumbnails, other crap people do. It's stupid. It's just, and fundamentally, it just insults the audience when they figure out that you're trying to mess with people in order to get more views. But, I mean, if you're offended by clickbait, if you're offended by tabloid journalism, then you should really like my channel. Because I want to be one of those regular Joes with regular videos that gets regular viewers. Let's go back to React mode and let's load up a picture in here. I'm going to... hey, my stream analytics. Well, we're actually going to load up video files to react to, even though it's not really videos. So let me just put the web browser up here so I can easily get to it and shut it off next time. So for video files to react to, I'm actually going to put a picture in here. I want to actually go over a PowerPoint slide that I don't have anymore, but I exported it. I actually exported it to, let's see, assorted PowerPoints, MultimediaJay, slide graphics. Oh, it doesn't read it. What's it read? It's looking for videos. It's looking for videos. Okay, then we'll just do plus image. And we'll call it image to react to. Image file to react to. There we go. So let's see how big this is. All right, here we go. Now I can see everything. So I have like manipulation meta as the name. My old slide. How big is this going to be? It's going to take up the whole screen, of course. All right, let's just bring it down underneath the webcam. Let's bring it down. Yeah, let's just bring it out. Let's just do this. Shrink it down a little. I'm sure you can read that perfectly fine, even if I do something like this. Historical examples of the manipulation meta on YouTube. This is my discussion slide from the last time I talked about this on Twitch 2 years ago. So this is a sort of thing, people have always been playing these games as long as YouTube has existed. In the 2000s, you had center framing spam because your thumbnail came from whatever was in the middle of your video, which is why if you watch some old YouTube videos, if you can dig them up, or my classic YouTube playlist or something, you're going to see videos that look like they're doing a subliminal message and flashing something in the middle of the video. That's because that's how people did thumbnails back then, before thumbnails were an official feature. So this is a problem, though, because people were making they were putting like a bikini picture on a video of something else. They would get a lot of views, but little watch minutes. That's one of the big reasons why YouTube changed from focusing on views to focusing on watch time. Bikini picture, let's see, center framing spam videos of a picture flashing in the middle because that's where the thumbnail always came from that wasn't related to the video itself. Bikini picture on video of something else usually got views, but little watch minutes as people left angry comments once started the video and left. In the early 2010s, we had the reply girls who were playing with the tag system, back when the tag system was in its prime, and you could actually show up in related videos if you copied and pasted the tags, which were publicly visible from another video. I say Hannah Minx ripoff. So if you don't know who Hannah Minx was, Hannah Minx was a forerunner to all of the camera pointing down their shirt type vloggers and Twitch streamers of today. She eventually left all this internet stuff and had a family. So that So an example of a content creator who I found out, moved on with her life when I was like, where do her videos go? And people on Reddit, of course, talk about everything. But she decided to walk away from all the internet stuff and get married and raise a family. That's nice. So that's cool. I don't believe in the term normie, by the way, for those of you that are new around here. I don't think that we should be making fun of people who are responsible for content creators having audiences. But yeah, the Reply Girls in 2010, the Hannah Minx ripoffs giving blah summaries of YouTube videos using metadata to show up in related videos. People disliked them because they clogged up the side feeds. There is probably still some vlogs out there from folks like Ickle Nelly Rose and other people that were making fun of the Reply Girls because they would take up your entire side panel until YouTube patched them out, so to speak. Now, YouTube could have banned all them for video spam, but instead they just broke the system for them so they couldn't do anything that way anymore. Unfortunately, the rest of us suffered collateral damage. We couldn't really do video responses like that anymore either. So it was kind of a thing where you got to consider the unintended consequences of changes at YouTube. In the late 2010s, probably we can say is the heyday of the neon super flashy thumbnails with wild flashy colors and thumbnails pushing the limits of YouTube's deceptive content policy, being broken technologically via mouse over previews on the thumbnail and the play bar of the video. Nowadays, the automatic autoplays that you get will break that. You can't hide the fact that your video is not neon pink through a thumbnail that is neon pink. And quite frankly, there's people out there that are sick of this crap. And I'd love to cater to those folks and be a regular guy doing regular videos, looking for regular viewers. Nice and simple. The rudiments of what makes YouTube what it is. In the 2020s, this is when I first started talking about this manipulation crap, making old videos look like new videos. And this is what we're dealing with today, 2 years later. Apparently this idea that it is somehow acceptable to insult your audience in the name of chasing a potential audience. Like the other person said, caring more about the view than the viewer. Completely changing the title and thumbnail of a video and confusing people who already watched it. The offline counterpart with the DVD Blu-ray changing title and box after the fact is ridiculous, but the online version on YouTube is a game to some people. That would be like if you had a movie and you looked on your shelf and everything had suddenly changed. It was a different title and the cover art was different. Why wouldn't that mess with your head and cause some cognitive dissonance? Whenever YouTube wants to start doing stuff about this, it runs afoul of YouTube's deceptive content policy by tricking people into thinking a video is something that it's not. YouTube has technologically broken all of the historical examples of this and will probably find a way to technologically break the 2020s tricks later on. YouTube has a choice here. They can enforce disciplinary action against accounts that play these games, but even if they don't, there's still the interpersonal negative effects on a creator's audience to consider. And we've seen from YouTube that they have chased after technology over the years. Because quite frankly, if you have to choose between banning a lot of people and potentially the bad feelings behind all of that, or just breaking whatever they're doing that isn't right so it doesn't work anymore, why wouldn't you just break the thing so they can't benefit from it and they'll stop doing it that way and you don't have to make people upset? So this is one of the reasons why, despite YouTube often having too much technology, I do support their push for it, because it's better than the alternative, which is an overzealous moderation team that will be going on banning sprees, banning people because they're breaking rules and potentially driving people away from the platform in the process. So I don't believe in manipulating my audience. I don't believe in I think it's an insult, quite frankly. You know, we've had Reddit saying for years, remember the person. Remember the person. And indeed, unless you're a spam bot, which I don't care if you are, which I don't care about you if you're a spam bot, go spam someone else. If you're an actual human being, then I need to respect you as a person. We're all still people here. This is just because there's screens in the middle doesn't mean we're not being social with one another. So where did the human side of YouTube go? And I'll tell you where it went. There are people that wanted to be successful business folks on YouTube that built something that works. And they think that it is prescriptive rather than descriptive. But not everybody is going to like that. As I've seen from some of the feedback on my own channel, people like that I'm real about stuff. instead of the generic cookie cutter SOP following videos that look like everybody else's and all the baggage that comes with that. People like that I'm a regular guy making essentially a regular guy making regular videos, looking for regular viewers. You know, in a day and age where YouTube gets too pretentious and too flashy and too commercial, dare I say it, it's great to have channels that are doing stuff for the rest of us, and where individual expression can still be a thing, even if the algorithms don't know what to do with it most of the time. But they do know what to do with retro. So, my setup is still college 2.0 here, just like when I was in college, and I was like, I'm going to set up my dorm room, and then I got the computer set up, and that was the end of that for a couple of days, so I finally got around to finishing everything up. I've been doing that with the retro setup. I got the retro setup working with a tube TV, and everything has been stopped ever since, and I found out the hard way that I need to call the place I want to talk about the Daewoo TV with a little earlier. So we're going to progress with that. It's 7:17 at the Geek House. If there aren't a lot of people riding motorcycles in this much less humid weather we're having in Connecticut, it might be good to be making some videos and be progressing this story, because I am sick and tired of my gaming setup being all torn apart like it is. I got to figure everything out. How are we going to move forward with the Geek House? Most of the progression is through videos. Don't expect very many of these chat streams or any streaming in general. I have so much to do with videos. That I will be busy for the foreseeable future. I might even cancel my ESO subscription and even my Xbox Game Pass to catch up on retro. That's how much this retro stuff is done here. So much stuff that's a work in progress. Let's make it less of a work in progress. Thanks to the folks who stopped by tonight. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And then we shall progress the story of the Geek House. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.